So before we start, a really quick question. How many of you here are from IT management, IT consulting, IT side of the organization, by raise of hands? Okay, just a couple. And so I'm assuming the rest of you are from operations, finance, marketing, business development, etc. Okay, it's very good. Another question, how many of you are from insurance industry? Okay, thanks, about 30%, 40%. And my computer just logged out. So in just a few seconds, you communicated a very interesting, very valuable information with me, and I was able to understand that in very few seconds. And that's the power of data visualization. Those hands raised, that's the heat map, basically. That's what it is. Now, if we didn't do through the visualization, I'd go around and ask each and every one of you and then try to add up the numbers to understand the same point. But here, we cut that down to a few seconds, and it's more effective for you to communicate, more effective for me to understand. It's win-win. And if you find anything, technology, process, whatever, that's a win-win for everybody, just go for it. That's the value of it. That's the value of data visualization. Just wanted to make that point. You know, that's the reason why I'm here, and I assume that's the reason why you all are here also. Okay, so let's make it an interactive session rather than me speaking. If you have any questions, please raise hands and let's talk about it rather than wait at the end. If it's a long answer, I may actually defer toward the end or until after the session. Otherwise, please feel free to ask questions during any time. Crawford Company, for those of you who don't know, some of you know already Crawford Company. For those of you who don't know, we are the world's largest independent claims solution provider. We are in insurance industry. Insurance companies and self-insured organizations are our clients. They come to us. We have the expertise to process the insurance claims, to assess the loss, to make the recommendation, make the payment, and other kind of side processes that are hanging off of that. So we have those experts. We have the adjusters. We have the nurses, doctors, attorneys, all people, all types of roles involved in insurance claims. And if you think about it, that's really the most interesting, the most exciting place to be in the insurance industry. And I know some people may not agree, because the whole industry delivers value through claims. That's when the policyholders, the claimants, that's when they get the value. They pay all the time, but that's when they get it through claim. That's the most exciting place to be. Besides that, the claims experience is actually well known to be the number one factor in consumers or organizations choosing the insurance company. That's the number one criterion. And also, it's the biggest expense for the insurance industry and insurance organizations, upward of 90% or sometimes even more related to claims expenses. So not only it's exciting because it delivers value, but it's also very important in terms of the top line, acquiring business, growing, and the bottom line, managing the claims. So, just to make a point, very interesting place to be. And so the data that we have, that we accumulate, that's exactly what we use for. We use to grow the top line. We use to manage the expenses and also improve the quality of the service. Sorry. We have been in business for 73 years, and we are in pretty much every country that has insurance industry at some level of maturity that requires claims management services. About 70 countries, 700 locations, and anywhere from 8,000 to 9,000 employees, depending on season and time of the year and events going on. Why do we use Tableau? We have, well, first of all, we have accumulated a lot of data about these claims, And our data set is unique in that we have data for different insurance companies, insurance carriers, in different countries, in different industries, different cultures. So it's quite unique. And we can analyze that. We can analyze cross carriers, cross countries, different claim types. Really, nobody else that type of breadth of data. And we have a long history of that. Well, that's one reason why we use Tableau. Second, the fast evolving industry and client needs and the need to be agile. We can no longer afford. We were just talking how people are used to those old ways of paper and PDF. We are way beyond that point right now. The new entrants like insurance, we have a person from insurance, is really challenging this market. Many others. Progressive has been one of the Progressive Insurance has been one of the innovators there also for a while. So we need to be agile. We need to remain at the forefront of the innovation, and we need to use data for that. We need to be a little more smart about it. And Tableau allows us to do that. We can easily, quickly, inexpensively adapt. We can change. We can report something else slightly differently. We can change by client. So it's not a long multi-million-dollar operation to make that happen. It can be just a single person actually making things happen. We can do that with Tableau. And the other thing is information overload. I joined Crawford 10 years ago, and I remember those days. The first, I was amazed. That was my first time in the insurance industry also. Came from technology, from Oracle, and I was amazed. Every month we would send out a big stack of paper to our branch managers and to our clients. Reports, and here is everything that you need to know. And who would analyze? I mean, in this day and age, there is overload of information. Who will go through 300 pages to understand what's happening, let alone then figure out what to do about it? So that's another very good reason, and you may relate to that also. Even the people who are used to the old ways of stacks of paper or PDFs, long PDFs, they'll eventually start to appreciate the power of just looking at it in a single page and understanding what's happening, and then drilling down and filtering, kind of interacting with the dashboard instead of having to go through paper. So we don't do that anymore. We don't do the papers. All right. So the objective of this presentation is to go through the cases and show value that we gained and show lessons learned. Hopefully, you all will relate to some of it or most of it. And if you walk away with a couple of ideas that you can take back to your organization and implement, that will be the success of this presentation. That's how I define success, is if you pick up some good tidbits of information, good ideas. Sorry. Analytics at Crawford Company. These are two quotes that I really love. First is, in God we trust, all others must bring data. Number one thing you should try to do in your organization, especially if you're in the insurance industry that tends to be tied to the history too much, is establishing the data analytics evidence-based culture rather than intuition, personal experience, etc. It has to be. There is really no way around. Because if you don't, then companies like Insurance, Progressive, more of the new entrants who actually start off that way will actually take over. That you'll be phased out of the market. And the second, the flip side of it is torture the data and it will confess to anything. If you really believe in something, you can find the data to justify that. And that's the danger of it, right? And instead, what you should be looking for is find ways to, the opposite, find ways to show that your ideas might be wrong or your intuition might be wrong. If you cannot find it, that will give you the basically confidence that you might be on the right track. More about that a little bit later, but those quotes I really love, and I really use them quite frequently to make a point quickly. So what is the business problem we're trying to solve at Crawford? That's the question I get asked by various analytics services or technology vendors, and it never sounds right to me. First of all, I do understand that understanding of your problem is half the solution. You have to really understand what you're after, and I get that. But the problem here is that there is no the business problem, and there might even not be a problem that you can recognize. What we're trying to do is apply analytics, use Tableau everywhere we can use in all kinds of data sets to improve client relationship, to improve our product offering, to improve our quality, to improve how we manage employees, talent in the organization, to enrich our strategic planning for all of these. And if you don't do that, if you focus on one of these, or maybe something else, maybe executive dashboards, whatever you focus on, then you're missing whole other opportunities. And it's almost as bad as not doing anything at all. So we don't have a single problem, and we might not even have the problem per se. We want to leverage power of data across the board. And there's a good mix of examples for that coming up. Another point here is, so it's not really about the concept of failing fast. You try something and you move on to something else. It's really about fighting multiple fronts at the same time. That's how I imagine this. And Tableau is really helpful. Technology itself is really helpful in that, because you don't have to spend $100,000 worth of labor to create something and then have to move on to something else, because you cannot afford to work on multiple things at the same time. Because of this very agile, very rapid way of building your dashboards, you can absolutely afford to do multiple things, as much as put your objective wide and tall, and just attack it. And that's what we try to do. So why does it matter? Why do we even do that at Crawford? Why don't we just say, we've been doing this way for decades. Why change? It's been working for us. Many people actually say that we've been doing this all the time, right? Well, we are actually experiencing technology-led disruption in the industry right now, in the insurance industry, and we are not the only ones. Other industries are actually experiencing the same, and we want to stay competitive. We've been in business for 33 years. We want to be in business for 130 or 73 years when we get there. I won't be there at the time, but organizationally, we actually want to be there. And so what that means really to us from usage of analytics standpoint is at the tactical level, using the data to optimize your processes that lets you remain competitive, lets you actually drive down the costs wherever you can. And then at the strategic level, it means using analytics to actually transform your business, go into other products, markets, services, or improve your product offerings, bundle differently or change how you price your products. Both of those things. And actually, analytics is very key, is central to both. If either of these is done based on intuition, it's bound to fail. It's really bound to fail. It's just a recipe for disaster. It has to be done based on science, based on data. And I bet you'll support that point because you're here at the Tableau conference. Okay, so just a few more points before we jump into the examples themselves. What makes smart business smart? The question. It may sound very, very basic, right? But the answer is also simple. It's their ability to learn from what they do or from what others do, and then apply that to adapt, to improve. And that's the core of what you do with analytics. That's exactly what we do at Crawford Company. And not only that, not only just produce dashboards, but make the information, make the actionable information available to everybody in the organization, those who are in the field, or those who are in the office, and those who are in another country, whenever they need to and wherever they need to. So this is really, this little diagram here summarizes what we are betting on at Crawford Company. It's a combination of business process automation and optimization, analytics, mobile technology. Improving your operations based on analytics, using analytics to improve the business decisions, the decision support, and then delivering the information, actionable information, wherever the user, the employee or client, wherever they are, whenever they are. That's really where we invest also these days. So how is Tableau technology helping? Well, that's really what it does best. A quick note here, what you'll see, examples, the data will be blurred on purpose because some of it is proprietary and most of it is sensitive. Or some data will be actually masked. It's fake data on purpose. Unfortunately, I cannot show you the real data. Okay. The first set of dashboards, you'll see 4 examples here, is client stewardship dashboards. This is basically about delivering information to clients that shows what we do for them, how we do for them, how we measure against their expectations. And there are examples here from the US, from Australia, UK, and that one is from Netherlands. And so a few points here. One is there is no one size fits all from our experience. It's always good to have a standard to start with if client doesn't really have anything in mind specific. But most of the time we end up with custom because different clients, they have different needs, preferences, or they may have different priorities at any given time. So start with some standard, but listen to what they need. And it's very easy to adjust in Tableau technology. It doesn't cost a lot to create yet another dashboard and optimize to that client using whatever metrics they need. And the typical things that we find that clients really appreciate is, especially in property areas like USAA might be interested in, is putting the currently open claims on the map to see where things are happening, and then breaking them down by who is working on them, what are the current statuses of them, what are the types of claims, what are the different the loss categories and things like that. In the workers' compensation industry, it may be some of the reserve levels or severity levels, by breaking down by cause. For example, the slip and fall versus car accident, for example, or liability claim versus workers' compensation claim, those types of things. And so we break that down by various criteria, and then we allow filtering for all of those important dimensions, and that's as a standard. So we break down by important dimensions, important to the client. We allow filtering so that they can select a particular thing and analyze across other dimensions. And then we also, it doesn't show here, but a typical another dashboard that we deliver to the client is the trend lines. So what's happening right now and what's been the trends. And they really appreciate it. The idea here is we close the claim, we finish the claim anyway, whether you show this to the client or not, right? But when you do this, you're moving closer to the client's value. You're actually showing a lot more diligence. You're going beyond. You're trying to solve their problem beyond just processing the claim. And that problem may be minimizing loss leakage or minimizing cycle times or improving the claimant rating or quality metrics. So that's what you're focusing on. You're focusing on their needs when you do this. Don't just close the client. This is what puts us apart. This is what will also put you apart from the competition. It doesn't have to cost much. More about that point a little bit later, because Tableau technology allows you to create things like this very easily. Next set of examples.
How are those delivered to the clients?
In various ways, actually, and it really depends on the account executive on our side and the client, what's their level of comfort, what they are used to. We want to push out the packaged files and let them just interact with readers. That's what I'm personally pushing for as a standard. Let's put them in the driver's seats, right, our clients. Or share using server, but we haven't done that much. We use server internally, but not externally yet. We may get there, hopefully. But then, depending on level of control, our account executive or client may prefer a part of a PowerPoint presentation. So you copy and paste in that case. Or even worse is PDF. It's a static, which somebody there might just print out and kill trees. Yes.
I'm curious. You're pushing to obviously multiple platforms, and I'm looking at the display size. As far as, have you found an optimal display size? Do you try to build it automatic for the desktop, or have you tried to use a landscape? Or
most of the time we just use automatic. But then if a dashboard is actually primarily going to be used on tablets, then we'll set that, we fix. It really depends on complexity of the dashboard itself. If it's something like this, we want to fix the size. But if simpler, and there are some simpler examples, we'll just leave it at automatic and let Tableau readjust. If this is automatic and shrink a little bit, then you start to lose the information. It doesn't look that pretty. The next one is operations management, and this is about using analytics to become leaner, better, faster in what you're doing, every single process in the organization, not only your primary processes, but also supporting processes like financial accounting and management and HR management, all of that. So that's the focus when we use Tableau for operations management. Back in 2010, we put together a cross-functional group, a global cross-functional group, most of it from various parts of business and finance and marketing and operations and some IT also, to define what's important to the organization. What are the metrics that are important to the organization? What are the metrics that are important to clients, to our managers, to the industry in general? So we came up with about 90, and that was the first surprise to me. My initial guess, well, probably we are talking about 15, 20. We came up with 90 metrics, and that covers everything. It covers client management, operations management, financial management, talent management, strategic planning across the board. And that was a great exercise by itself, because that served as the basis for what happened afterwards. It actually enabled a lot of the other things, or accelerated a lot of the other things that happening since then. If you haven't done that yet, taken an inventory of what are the metrics that are important, that's definitely worthwhile thing to do. It's not one once and done thing either. It's very typical that you come back to revisit, and you may add something, you remove something. Another thing we found, and you'll find, I'm sure, is you'll find some important metrics that you'll determine that you're not gathering data for those. But they are important to the organization. And the exercise itself gives you that first step to improve your operations by starting to capture those data points. Right? But then it also serves as the basis for what follows afterwards. And then once you have those metrics down, defined what they are, how they are derived, then creating dashboards that slice and dice by important dimensions like client, the internal branch, the claim type, things like that, the product, the service that you deliver, and then put them on the map, put them on the bar chart, on the pie chart, color code them, play with various options and whatever works. And also for different metrics, you may find different visualizations work best. But again, the two distinct types of dashboards that we start with, one is the point-in-time dashboard that shows that metric now, or you can select a week ago or a year ago, sliced and diced by important dimension. And second is trends dashboard that shows how it's been trending over a given period of time. And that also, you break it down by different color for different values of the dimension. Allow the user to select which dimension they want to cover. And you may have attended some of the sessions that talk about using parameters for that. It's really powerful. It simplifies your dashboard dramatically, but gives it a lot of power when you drive it based on parameters. So the user selects the dimension first, and then selects the rest of the filtering and the top 5, top 10, and the dashboard displays the trend lines for that. Allow the user to select measure also. We have dashboards that you can select the measure, you can select the dimension, and you can select the filter, and then select the values. And it shows you the trend line. The simple, very simple, there's an example later on that, very simple, that lets you answer countless numbers of questions if you're looking for some answers. So I like to call it taking operations through analytics MRI. You measure everything, and then you can visualize in many different ways.
So with operational data, and you obviously have lots of different sources, you're pulling probably the same information from. Did you run into data quality issues?
Yes. Yeah, that's a really good question. That's another thing that comes other than discovering that we are not capturing data for important metrics. We discover the data that we capture is inconsistent, incomplete, and that's another thing that comes up from that exercise. And you can look at it as a problem and stop it right there. But you can look at that as an opportunity and define what needs to be done to bring in that consistency of capturing, bring in that consistency in deriving or defining what that is. We'll talk about that a little later, but it's very important not to stop at the dashboards, but to push your organization to make the change. Because if you stop at the dashboard, you just deliver, 5% of what you can deliver to the organization. You got to push for the change, for the improvement, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. And data quality is one of those things, is typically considered as showstopper. Well, we don't have quality data, so we're done. Doesn't have to be the showstopper. It's the first thing that you push for improvement. The next one is in this example, the Crawford Command Center, just not the dashboard per se, but is a organization. It's a small group. It's a physical room that we have. Actually gathers data and analyzes data from different sources. It's like a central intelligence unit, if you will, at Crawford. And they are primarily tasked with managing inventory, managing quality, but also managing the events like catastrophes, the floods that involve the very quick setup of an operation of its own and managing it. And so we use Tableau at Command Center quite extensively. And it's been very effective. And the reason is, first of all, the information. Very important in case of catastrophe events, for example. Very important to understand where you are in order to make decision about staffing or logistics or what have you. Or even if client wants to know something quickly, that's where actually they go to. They go to the Command Center, and Command Center is able to pull that together very quickly. But another side of it is, again, it doesn't make sense to stop at just publishing the data. Command Center people are actually empowered to force an issue. They see something that needs to be improved. They are empowered to force that issue. And that's very important. That's the other side. It's not only information gathering and dissemination, but also that authority to make things happen. It's not a particular dashboard, again, per se. They use Tableau as the tool to create dashboards on ad hoc whenever they want, whatever they're trying to accomplish. It's a group of people. It's a physical place. And it's very effective in the organization. And lesson learned, again, give them access to all the data. All the data. That should be all. You shouldn't have access to it. Give them access to all the data and give them authority to question your managers, your VPs, or actually make the change, press for the change. This one of the examples of the dashboards that came out of the command center. During Superstorm Sandy, it was a big operation. We had to bring in, 500-600 or so temporary adjusters in addition to our adjusters. We had to deploy them in the field. And that's the situation in which roads are flooded and there is no power. And the things that we take for granted at any given time, they don't exist. So you have to somehow manage the workforce and make sure they get assignments and get things done. Information is very important in that type of situation. This was the most popular dashboard during the time, during the aftermath of Sandy. And that's the value that it delivered. It allowed our operations leaders to make quick decisions, see the results relatively quickly, and validate the path that they were on and adjust based on that. So it really shows the total number of claims that are still outstanding, the adjusters that are in the field, different types of adjusters, the claims coming in. You see a spike, and then the long tail of claims continuing for quite a long time afterwards, and then the claims being closed spiked in, I believe this is December, and then continuing in January and later. And then on the map, the interesting thing is on the map, if you actually animate the data when the claims come in, you really see it follows the kind of hurricane and these floods developing. And it's a nice visual, but you also can use that type of information to make evaluation, assess exposure for your biggest clients based on where their policyholders live.
Did you make that just for Superstorm Sandy, or is that so did somebody put that together in reaction to it, or was that just the dashboard that applied data related to it?
This was custom made for Superstorm Sandy, but we make the same for every single. I'll actually, I won't show the real one, but one of the ones for Japan earthquake that we did. We had several ones. I'll show the one that doesn't have the proprietary information. But we create these for specific catastrophes. And the type of dashboard we create for flood or for forest fire, for example, those may be different versus hurricane and storm. So, and we want to focus on that geography also. I mean, we would probably use this as a template next time, but more likely than not, we'd sit and define. So, what do we want to see? What do we want what do our operations managers want to see, and then build custom for that. And that's the beauty of it, because that's the beauty of it, because you don't have to worry about that gain of creating something and then spending 6 months, because you don't spend 6 months. You create something like that. As long as you have a way to pull data, you can create something like that in hours in Tableau. That's the beauty of it. It lets you create something specific to that event, and it's very worth it. Very worth it, because it is custom to that.
It seems like, as I'm looking through this, and the common theme is that all of it really started at that MRI. In other words,
it did.
You started back in 2010. You developed the 90 KPIs. You developed the backbone. You developed the business identifying the segmentation, and And then from there, you're able to leverage that into all of these arenas quickly and easily because you built the foundation to grow.
Yes. Yes, the KPIs, absolutely. They were the starting point. They were the catalyst also, because it also opened up the eyes for everybody. If going into that exercise, some operations leaders, they had 15, 20 KPIs in mind, they walked out with 90. They understood what are the other possibilities. They may not be leveraging their data, their analytics resources to achieve the value in, for example, talent management. They're too much focused on operations, or maybe they're too much focused on client. I don't know if there is such thing as you have to always be focused on client, but maybe they were missing. And that was absolutely the case. What they've discovered, that there is a lot more that's important. They just hadn't thought about it in different parts of the organization, and they learned from each other. That was a catalyst also for this.
What impact did that have on your business reacting to Superstorm Sandy? Without it, what happened? What happens if you don't have that dashboard?
Well, the first is that the first thing that would happen is that's a good question. What would happen if we didn't have this dashboard, right? So the first thing is you wouldn't be able to answer the question: are we meeting the demand? Are we missing? Remember, every single claims that we are processing here is revenue to us. That's one thing. Second, if we are missing the claims, it's not only loss of revenue; it's loss of reputation. Client may want us to process on things, but we are not able to. We don't have adjusters. So the questions, we cannot find really good answers to questions like, are we meeting demand properly? Are we setting up the catastrophe response team properly? Are we staffing them properly? What's developing? What we need to do now to be ready for tomorrow, a day after tomorrow? Those types of questions otherwise would be based purely on intuition, on somebody's out there in the field and they see something or they don't see something. Well, they can see only one thing at a time. They cannot see this picture that this dashboard delivers. So you're basing your decisions on intuition rather than what's actually happening, and that's a big it's a big problem. It's a bad place to be in. And of course, there is the value of your clients knowing that you are actually making your decisions, managing your operation based on this rather than intuition. Not only value you gain internally, but value you gain externally also.
Can I ask another real quick question? How real time is this data? Is it like
yes, different
operational, or is it like a day lag?
different parts are actually at different levels of. So the claims coming in and out, because for that operation we have a single claim system, it's close to real time. We pull in the data as we need. Some of the other information, like you see kind of blurry on this section, it actually had to come by a person kind of reporting that this is how many people we have in the room today or in the field today. So those would come in as they would come in, usually several times a day, and we'd go in and update the data. But what you see on the map, the trend lines and claim counts, those are close to real time. Right, so the next example is employee productivity. And this is really individual productivity dashboards. Our adjusters, they are producers. They generate revenue with what they do. And the objective of this dashboard is to actually map that out, show how much they generate, where are they against their targets, and so why do we do this? The analogy that I like is, well, we drive well because we see where we are, where we're headed, so we make the little adjustments, turns properly. And if we did not, if we were driving blindfolded, then we'd probably not take the right turn or cross the car. And that's what may happen if your producers, they don't know where they are against their targets, how they're progressing, then it's up to the guest what's going to be the result. So it does wonders when you make it very clear to them. This is how you're doing against your targets. It actually helps them, helps your managers, helps your producers actually make the right decisions, right driving decisions, those kind of hour-to-hour type of decisions. And also, it's a live pulse. It's also a real-time data as things happen, the activities on the claim, the report created or contacted the claimant or whatever is happening. That gets logged right away, and that shows up here. That actually translates to revenue downstream. So we are reporting on the production metrics right away. That's like a live pulse of what's happening right now, and it's useful for the management of it.
Sergio, do you do any peer comparison against employee productivity?
Yes, we do. We do. And that's a good question. Not only for this metric, but for many of the metrics, we find roughly 80-20 rule that you see like 20% of your clients give 80% of your revenue and things like that. Same in this type of situation also. So you can also use these to make the decisions about improving cross-training, staffing properly. But this is another example, employee productivity. I realize we are running a bit late. There's a lot more to cover here, so I'm going to try to run through another dozen or so examples. This one is GIS and client dashboards. How many, by the raise of hands, are in business that's affected by weather or climate events? See, about half or so. And I'm guessing the rest are also affected. I mean, who is not really affected when it's flooding where you live? But then, in the insurance area, we are directly affected that if something happens, that's where your resources, that's where the loss will be. So you can do that very easily in Tableau. Map it out on the map, geographic map, but then use the externally available data sources to overlay the weather information. The ones that are free, we pay taxes for it. So we should be using. They're not really free, but from the government, from NOAA and National Atlas and DataGov. Very good data sets. You can directly use NOAA and nationalatlas.gov map information for things like seismic maps down here or up there, near real-time weather information. This is near real-time. I think, maybe 20 minutes kind of lag. And then the weather events progressing. You can merge, we can actually overlay with your own data there and do whatever you want. But basically, the bottom line is Tableau allows you to do that. And there is data out there that's free. And there is commercial data also if you want to achieve even more. The next example, and here we are getting into a little more interesting parts. So I'm going to try to go quicker, but then if you have any questions about this, please feel free to ask. It's about product pricing. This is to use analytics to support finer grained pricing of your products. And the objective here is to remain competitive, to be able to price it competitively while still remaining profitable. And it's sometimes a very difficult thing to do. But we have the data, we have the transaction data on every single claim. And most likely in your organizations, if you have this transaction processing system, whatever industry you're in, you most likely have log of all the activities happening on your work units, whether claims, cases, whatever you're working on. So we're leveraging the data to understand cost drivers of our claims. Not only that, we're actually doing that by jurisdiction, by industry of our clients, like for self-insured clients. We can even go down to this is age groups actually down there. So if there are different organizations that have different age profiles, we are able to price specifically for that. And one of the things we found in predictive modeling is that age group actually does impact your outcomes, your cost of processing the claim, as well as the indemnity cost and all of that. So was there a question?
What are the blue bars and red lines
Okay, so these are the histograms. One of them, the blue bar, is actually the number of activities since the loss for every week. After that, what's happening on the claims. If you bring all the claims starting at time 0 and week 0 and then week 1, etc., it shows the number of activities. And a lot of it happens in the first week and then declines. But in certain cases, there's a long tail. In some cases, actually, there's a little increase because that case may actually translate into a problem case and requires more attention now. It may happen for various reasons. Actually, there's another slide that may help understand that better. And the other line is actually the bills process, the money paid out. So we map it out, and we have the profile of that type of claim for that type of client in that type of industry in that jurisdiction. What are the activities happening? What are the money going out? We are able to use that to price that product for that specific client. And if competition comes up with lower price, then so be it. We don't want to lose money, right? But we at least know until which level we have to. It allows us to remain productive, remain competitive, both at the same time. And we use the data that we already have. We didn't have to hire a consultant, an expensive consultant, to try to analyze this. This is transaction data from your system. Next one is industry benchmarking. And this is a simple idea. In most industries, there is some organization, maybe government, maybe commercial, that gathers data and reports some kind of statistics on various industry-specific metrics. And you can use the data to compare against. Here is also the data is blurred on purpose. But the idea is when you go to your clients to make statements about how good you are in delivering the services, substantiate that, show it on the dashboard. Of course, assuming that you are better than the benchmark, right? And if you're not, there are other things that we'll show a little later how to achieve that. But this goes a long way because everybody can say we are really good in what we do. But if you show it to, we are really good. See, our green line is much shorter, the time that it takes and all of that. It adds a lot of credibility. I cannot quantify the value, but there is a huge value in that. Okay, so the executive summaries, notice this wasn't the first on the list. Because personally, I think this is not the most important that you can do with analytics, but also it's quite important to the extent that it helps you then attract more funds or justify more funding to do more bigger impact things. So it is still important. It may be the first thing that you do to get their support, get executive support, get funding or what. But few things here is just like with clients, there is no one size fits all. That's been our finding. Different roles, different heads of different units, they will want to see different things. Just go with that expectation and build something that's specific to them. But the main point is don't stop here. If this becomes your analytics project from start to end, you're missing the whole point. Please don't stop here because this is just the beginning. This is just to get funding. All right, so the next point here is, I'm in IT. And I've been talking about using analytics to help business improve operations, pricing, this and that. So why don't we use within IT also? And first, it helps our own operations, improve our own operations, our system. But also, that's another example. You can take it to your business unit, your sales team, or whoever, and say, see, we are using it. It's very effective. And the examples you see here is the change management dashboard. We have change management system. We capture all the changes. And that's the data. Why don't you analyze to see what are the trends, which systems are most volatile and bring risk, and which areas tend to request more changes, which areas in the business. And you'll get a lot of information. And here also we find this 80-20 rule, by the way, the systems that are volatile and risky and the demand coming from mostly one select area. Also the people who work to make those changes tend to be the 20% does 80% of the work. But anyway, use analytics. If you're in IT, use analytics in IT. That's the point. This example is technology governance. Next one is PMO, project management. Quick note here. I love government here in the U.S. actually releasing data publicly. And in my mind, that's going to be one of the best and biggest long-lasting economic stimulus that government is doing, because it really brings the value. It actually creates new ways of doing business. It creates new organizations that add value in the value chain. It transforms the existing organizations. And that's just by making the data available for others to use. And the whole idea here is to do the same within your organization. What we did a couple of years ago, we started publishing information about our projects, how they are doing, right? By unit, by program director, and then where are the risks, typical risks, and what are the trends. This green line is projects in healthy status, and yellow and red. And just by that fact of starting to publish, it actually helped us then improve that, make the right decision about staffing. If we see there are the resource problems, here purple, resource problems, most of the problems, that we don't even go into a project because we know our current projects are already suffering without resources. So making this information publicly available not only helps a single person, head of PMO, make a decision, but it actually helps everybody who is working on the project actually make the right decisions. It's like internal economic stimulus. If you think about it, it helps make the right decisions, make the right choices. Next one is budget management. And this data, I bet all of you have already. And most of you are used to just cross-tabs, numbers in Excel or whatever columns or whatever. It's very, very useful to put Tableau on top of it. Color code, green, red, right, above, over budget. And then the bullet charts to show where are you against the budget year to date. And also with the forecast, where are you here? Where is your year-end forecast versus year-end budget? You already have the data. And it helps in financial management. Helps you remain on the budget. Helps with the financial controls and diligence. Another one, revenue, accounts receivable, work in progress, financial metrics. You have this data in your GL, accounts payable, accounts receivable. Put the dashboards on top of it. Here, this one on your left is actually showing accounts receivables on in different age groups, by client, by branch, by adjuster, by various criteria. And once we started to put this in visuals like this, then our accounts receivables and collections groups, they knew where to focus their efforts to basically get paid for what we are doing. Right? This actually decreased. Once you bring that type of data-based operations of accounts receivables, that actually decreases your time needed to collect on your payment, decreases your day sales outstanding metric, which actually has a direct impact on your bottom line. So this is mundane stuff, but important. You have the data already. And one quick note, by the way, this is all numbers, no charts. And the reason is in finance, people don't, well, I'm not going to make general statements. There are people who just don't like, visuals. They like numbers. And I find those people in finance more than in other parts of the organization, let's say so. So this is not really color-rich on the left-hand side, but still when you put them in different buckets, it gives them actionable information. Be cognizant about your audience. There's another point later. SLA compliance. Let's see how we are doing on time. All right. We need to run through this. What your clients expect and where are your metrics. Put them together and make sure you are meeting those expectations. Report this to the clients. That shows additional diligence that you are active about managing your operations, your milestones, deliverables against those expectations. So, and now to the point of what do you do if you're not meeting those expectations? Now we're going into using Tableau for operations optimization. We talked about drivers of cost drivers for pricing. The same way, analyzing for drivers of profitability. When you have the data across your the products, clients, and all the activity data, you can analyze driver of profitability, risk, cost. Sorry. For example, how does your claim load impact quality metrics? The number of claims that an adjuster on the average is processing, does it impact on the outcomes? It's very easy to put that on the scatter plots, and you'll see visually very quickly, you'll see what's happening and to what extent. Or another question, how valuable is the years of experience for the outcome? Those questions, and those are just examples. So many different questions you can ask to understand and use in optimized operations. So examples here you see are some of the examples for that. Let me skip over to more interesting parts. Activity profiles in peer groups. Here, again, internally looking for improving our operations. We log all the activities, so why don't we analyze and compare between different producers? That's the idea. But not just compare. We compare for the same type of assignment, same type of claim. Let's say property claim. We compare John versus Jack, or John versus everybody, Jack versus everybody, to be more precise. And so these are the profiles using the tree maps and how they compare. And then another dashboard on the left-hand side actually gives the numbers that this person does 200% more telephone calls on property claims, 3 times more than average. So you find things that you can actually fix to improve your operations, improve the costs. And you have this data, most likely. This is the transaction data. Caseload analysis, this is the example that I talked before. That's all it is. You put the number of open claims and number of active claims and number of active adjusters, and you show based on the branch, based on the client, and there's the trend line. That's the norm, if you will, and then you see the outliers. And it lets you ask the question, how come in this branch people work on 10 cases on the average at the same time? On the other, on typical, it's 5.
Who are the people that are creating these? Are these business users or are these IT people?
It's mixed, actually. A lot of what's happening is it's people who are very analytic, no matter which part of the organization they're in. They usually tend to start with Excel, and then once they see Tableau, they want to start using it and do things like this. And part of what I do is promote that, to push it, to make sure everybody, not only IT, business, in operations, finance, marketing, sales, they're aware that there are these capabilities. We have the data, not perfect data. It's not all 100% perfect. There's a lot of value to be derived. Why don't you use them? You give them examples and show them how to, and then let them run with it. That has worked well for me personally. I guess different types of cultures in the organization may actually call for different approach to that. But yeah, it's all.
And have you guys been seeing tangible differences with this? Can you go back and look at before and after you had this visibility?
We actually see, I don't have any chart to show, but we do see, there was one example, for example, is a particular, I think we're about running out of time, right? Okay. Well, just a minute. Yes, just a minute. Using data for product intelligence, because you have the data, how much you're billing your clients, how much clients are paying you. What this is market basket analysis. You can do it in Tableau easily. What products tend to go together. You can use that information to cross-sell. One client is using product A, but not product B, but those tend to go together. Call that client. Another one is forensic analysis. Benford's law, very simple to implement in Tableau. Lets you find irregularities, the problems in expenses, things like that. If you Google Benford's law, I think you'll understand what it's about. Very simple to implement in Tableau. It's just a histogram. Subject matter expertise. Example of findings. Did you know that hernia injury claims tend to be 4 times as likely to go into litigation? I did not until I did the analysis. And down below, you see the predictive model that we built that gave 7.8 times the lift. Based on the findings, we built a predictive model. For succession planning, forecasting, trend analysis, decomposing into trends, one-off factors, and random factors. And then you actually make your decision based on trend, not one-off factors or random. Supply and demand, forward-looking forecasting, using forecasting to forecast your demand out several years and then making hiring decisions, training decisions based on that. Another example for forecasting, lessons learned. Sorry, we haven't been able to go through all because it's a lot of ground to cover, but thank you for your time today.